This video has been sponsored by Beltline Hobbies and by the Canfield Train and Toy Show, October 12, 2025, at the Canfield Fairgrounds in Ohio. Hi everybody, it's Chris at the Cloverdale Transit Authority, and this is a train video, but I kind of need to set the scene first. So here in July, after a year of planning, my mother and father-in-law wanted to celebrate their 80th birthdays by taking their son and daughter and their spouses and the grandkids on a cruise to Alaska. Now, I've never been on a cruise before, and I just kind of had some trepidations, just like, what is this going to be like? And so away we went and left out of Vancouver and ports such as Sitka and also Skagway, Juneau, and Ketchikan. And we booked a number of excursions. We were hiking on a glacier, which you could only reach by helicopter. That was a fun adventure, and also wildlife observations and so forth. But the highlight for me, or what I thought was going to be the highlight, was a scenic railroad excursion in Skagway. And it turns out really the whole trip was a highlight. Just fun to be with the family, but also the food was amazing, the ship was amazing, the service was amazing. I would go there. I would go there once a year if budget could afford. It was pretty amazing. But I want to talk about the White Pass and Yukon Railroad in Skagway. In the mid-1880s, there was a huge gold rush in the Yukon Territory, which kind of sits, kind of begins on the border of Alaska and British Columbia. And so people went there to make their fortunes, and it was very difficult to get through there because it was very rough terrain and it was cold. And so at a certain point, they discovered a better route to get through to the Yukon, and they named that the White Pass after the Canadian Minister of the Interior, Sir Thomas White. So as it turns out, in 1898, two fellows come together. One's an investment guy, one's a railroad contractor. The investment guy, Sir Thomas Tancredi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Michael Henney, they came together with the same idea to build a railroad through that pass, and enabling quicker transportation of not only passengers but freight. And so they began construction, and people thought they were crazy, and so they did finally complete it, though. I mean, it only took 26 months and $10 million, which was obviously a lot of money back then. But in 1900, they completed the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. So the White Pass and Yukon continued to operate, hauling ore and other materials to Skagway to be loaded on ships, and also was instrumental in as the chief supplier for the U.S. Army's Alaska Highway Construction Project. So they were involved in that. And then in 1954, they converted over to diesels and operated the railroad up until 1982, and because of the metal prices dropping across the world, they ceased operation. And in 1988, the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad became a scenic railroad and a very popular attraction in Skagway, one of the main attractions, especially for for cruise line passengers. And that brings us up and back to our cruise and this excursion that I was so excited about in Skagway. All right, so enough of the history lesson. Back to the action, current day. So beautiful training. We got right off of the ship, walked to the end of the pier, and we were ready to go. We looked at some of the equipment, obviously the coaches, some of them dating back to the 1800s, but our coach was, my wife booked us the luxury observation car at the end of our consist, and it was absolutely beautiful and worth the money. Locomotive-wise, they've got some Alco diesels they've been running for years, and then also recently the National Railway Equipment Company in Mount Vernon, Illinois, provided 6 new engines, and those are doing the lion's share of the work. But there is also still a steam locomotive that used to serve on the railroad, number 73. It's a Baldwin 282 Mikado. And I love those. I really am sort of now intrigued and looking to possibly add one of those to the model railroad. All right, so off we go up into the mountains. And just, again, the scenery is absolutely beautiful. But I will tell you, because this is a narrow gauge railroad, which means the rails are not as wide apart as they are on a standard railroad. The cars do have a tendency to sway a little bit more than on a standard gauge railroad. And you can see here, by looking at some of the footage, you can see how much more narrow the tracks are, like 3 feet for a narrow gauge railroad. They needed to build it that way in order to get up through the mountains. And as we traveled up the grade, we noticed a couple of different artifacts from the railroad. Now, this damage is not as old as what you think. This is the old trestle, and hadn't been used for years, hadn't been maintained. And so in 2020, it collapsed under the weight of snow. And it's an interesting thing to see as you're traveling along, hoping that you're not going over that trestle. Next, we're going to see the first of 2 tunnels, one going up and another one coming back. And you can see the end of train indicator blinking on the wall of the tunnel. Okay, now we're making our way up to White Pass Summit, and that little obelisk you see there, that is the marker for the border between the United States and Canada. And what's amazing about this railroad is there is a turnaround loop at the top, and it sends you back down so they don't have to back the train up or anything like that. And also, they're running multiple trains at the same time because there is 2 sets of tracks going up, coming down, And so we'll see here in a little bit a couple of trains passing us by. And we quickly pass by an old caboose that is used by hikers as overnight accommodations. And then we approached the yard and the scrap yard as we were coming closer to pulling into Skagway. And the conductor mentioned to me that he wished they'd clean up the yard a little bit. And I told him that most yards I've seen are pretty bad, and theirs actually looks really nice compared to the refuse that I normally see around railroad yards. And here comes the second pass by of another locomotive that's heading up to the summit. This time it's the steam engine, the Mikado, and everybody wanted to film this, so look quickly. Yeah, so blink and you'll miss it. Anyway, so that was the excursion we had on the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. Again, a fantastic trip and really hard to pick a highlight, but for me, you know, like a lot of you out there, train nerds, this was really special, and probably not a railroad I would have gotten a chance to ride on under normal circumstances. So I'm kind of excited because I actually found a White Pass tanker car that I've added to the railroad, and now I really want to hunt down that Lion Master, Lion Chief Mikado, maybe at a train show here in the future. If any of you have any suggestions, please put it in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, please click on like and subscribe to the channel, and then click on the little bell, and that will let you know when we post new videos. Thanks again so much. We'll catch you on the next video.